Welcome to BDC Talks. I'm joined by our guest today. He goes by BKH,
Yeah, that's
but
my
his
internet
full
name.
name,
Yeah.
we all know him as Brian Kofi Hollingsworth. And he is the proud owner of Dam Studio, a designer with 15 years experience. Probably more than that, to be honest.
We'll talk about that, but
Let's
yeah.
talk about that. Yeah. And he's just graciously come onto this episode to talk about the reality of running a design business.
Yeah.
Is it all glitz and glamour? Is it pain, torment, the torture? What is it? And we're just going to talk and have the informal conversation. So thank you, Brian, for coming on.
My pleasure.
Taking your time out of your busy schedule to just kind of drop knowledge and to interact with us and share your experiences with us. So how are you feeling today, first off?
Yeah, I'm all right,
Yeah.
Same day you wake up, you design, and you go back to sleep, isn't it? The same day every day for the past 15 years.
It's a long road which we're going to talk about, but we've been interacting like online for for quite a while now. But we never actually had a face-to-face conversation properly.
No.
We spoke briefly over WhatsApp, but when I was thinking about which expert can I bring on to talk to the community about certain topics, and you just came up to my mind as someone that's well known for what he does and runs a design business.
We just know each other from Instagram, innit?
From Instagram,
Twitter?
yeah.
Instagram.
Either Twitter or Instagram.
Yeah.
One of those ones. But it's fun. And the content that, I downloaded one of your ebooks back in the day, and you have correct me if I'm wrong, but you have a passion for the social side of things as well.
Yeah.
So it's been fun watching you develop and grow in your area of expertise. So if you could describe yourself to everyone that's here, and if you can briefly tell the story of BKH, the past 15 years in maybe in a minute.
How
would I do that? In a nutshell. Not too strict of a minute. You can go over a minute if you want.
All right. Give me 3 minutes and I'll tell you. All right. So I was thinking the other day, just before I get into I was thinking the other day, when do people usually say they started their career? So I usually say it was when I got paid for my first design job. I was like, well, because you're not a professional unless you're getting paid, right? Even if you're just getting paid for one job and you don't get paid for a couple months later, which was the case. But I always started I got paid for 2 flyers. That's when I became a graphic designer, because that's when I was able to realize I could make this into a career. I could live off this. Prior to that, it was just a hobby. I was just messing about in Photoshop, and I wouldn't say I was necessarily a graphic designer, right? So the 15 years is a bit higher, because first time I got paid was about 17. So it would be 17 years, but the 15 years when I went to uni to study graphic design. So sometimes I'll say 15, sometimes I'll say 17, sometimes I might say 19. It doesn't matter, man. I can design, innit?
Time assessor concepts.
Yeah. 2 years, 3 years difference, who cares? All right, yeah. So I'll tell you when I first saw Photoshop. I went to my cousin's house, and he had a friend, and he was drawing comics. Me, my cousin, and his friend, he always used to draw comics. He used to love drawing, not so much these days, but he used to love drawing comics and all this kind of stuff, Marvel comics specifically. Yeah. And he was using Photoshop to color his personal comics. I was like, what the hell is this program? What is this? He was like, oh, it's Photoshop, because he was in college. And I was like, Photoshop, what? I was in second year. I was like, what the hell is this? And that was the first time I ever saw Photoshop. But then I wanted to pursue architecture for some reason, because my older cousin was doing architecture. And I thought, yeah, architecture, cool. By this time, I'd never heard of graphic design. So I went to college, and I went to Richmond College, and I signed up for an architecture course. But I had also been going to a summer course in Goldsmiths University. So my cousin, his mom, my auntie, she sent me and my cousin there. Not that cousin that was drawing with the cousin that was my age. He was much older. So we used to go there every year. And every year it was something to do with the art. So it was drumming, theater lighting, web design, video editing. So I did all of that, but none of it really stuck with me. It was just okay, something to do in the summer, right? Then one summer there was graphic design. And I was like, what the hell is this? They had the old G4 Max, the white one. I think it was called like a G4 or G5.
Yeah,
The big white one, yeah. So the same kind of design they got now, but it was just white and thick. And I was like, what the hell is this thing? And the person started showing us all the stuff you can do, all these different graphic designers. And then it's like I started seeing graphic design everywhere. And I was like, oh, okay, that label's graphic design, that poster's graphic design, that logo. Prior to that consciousness, you just see stuff, but you don't know it's called a thing, called like graphic design.
Yeah.
The same way like we walk into a building, we don't know the levels of engineering that has gone into creating that building. You just, hey, I'm just, pressing the elevator or whatever. You don't know all the ins and outs of it, right?
Exactly.
So I was like, this is amazing because I wasn't good at model making. I wasn't really that good at maths in college. So architecture wasn't seeming like it was for me, to be honest. So, I was like, yeah, all right. And graphic design seemed so instant. So I was like, I just instantly kind of fell in love with it because it was like, I could just do something in the computer and see it right now.
Yeah.
I can make this text wavy. I can color that in. I can change the color. And I was like, this is amazing. This is what I want to do. So after that summer, I kind of got obsessed with graphic design. I went back to college, stopped doing an architecture course and switched to graphic design. I was doing graphic design, art history, and I axed the maths as well. And then I think one evening, we had a computer, and then my mum had a stolen version of all the Adobe. That's how every designer starts. Yeah, I had a stolen version. Allegedly. So I was just in my room, allegedly, you can't prove it. So I was in my room just designing something. Whatever it was. And my mum was walking past and she saw me and she was like, no, I've been seeing you like going hard at this, whatever it is, like graphics, right? Like, I think you should do that. That was the day I said, my mum says, I'm good at it. I'm good at it. I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? And that's the day I was like going hard and I would like stay after school and start skipping other classes to stay in the graphic design class. So I was in other people's classes, staying after school. The cleaner had to kick me out, going in there early and just, because this is kind of like prior to me having a computer at home. But the computer was very slow as well. By the time I did get a computer, it was an old computer. It was a Hewlett-Packard old one. So I would always wait. I would always go to college to use that computer because it was better. And then I get to uni. I get to uni, London College of Communication. I do my foundation course. Then I get to first year. I failed first year. I flopped first year. And I do it again. And then I go halfway through the year. And I'm like, it's not for me. So I drop out. So I drop out of uni after trying to do the first year twice.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So
just to hop on that was similar to my experience at university. And I finished university, but I wish I dropped out.
Why?
Personally. Because I just didn't learn anything past this at the second year onwards. But after my personal experience, other people like on my course learned a lot from it. But for me, my mind just wasn't. It just wasn't for me. But being a Yoruba man, like I was born in Nigeria, I couldn't
go home.
I had to get that degree. Otherwise, I'm going to shame upon my people. So I at least finished it. So it was just interesting experience. Someone in the chat says that they had the same experience as well.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So my mom Ghanaian. She's pretty chill anyway. So when I told her, she was just like, just explain to me like what's going on, like what else you're gonna do, what's happening with you. You're not just dropping out for like silly reasons or whatever. And then she got remarried, so I spoke to her husband as well. Look at my stepdad, right? Yeah, and they were just like, just help us understand. And they were like, okay, cool. If you sound like you know what you're doing, innit? And at the time, obviously, you don't go to uni to learn Photoshop. But at the time, I'd like been learning Photoshop and been like, doing my own work. I had been paid already, so it was like, I wasn't really getting anywhere in terms of like in the industry or like getting any notoriety. No, but I was just like doing the work. And then you go to uni and you're like sitting in classrooms. So I think for me at the time, it was kind of a bit arrogance, ignorance. So this is not to say anybody has to go uni or should go uni, but this is just my story. And I think historically, I don't like school. Historically, I don't like classrooms because I was just very disruptive. I disrupted other people. I was always disrupting myself, but I love learning. And I realized that when I did my GCSE, so I know the story's going all over the place, but I realized that when I did my GCSE,
I'm picking up some things that are quite interesting. But keep going.
When I was doing my GCSEs, all the teachers thought I was going to fail because I was always getting kicked out of class because I was so disruptive. But what had happened was that I had taken the textbooks home and read the textbooks myself and studied myself and did a lot of revision. So when the test came, I did really well in my GCSEs. I got like 1 A star, 2 A's, like 5 B's and 1 C. And the C was in French because we were in the lower class, so that was the highest anyone could get. And a couple of teachers came up to me and asked me, like, did you cheat? It's like they knew I wasn't stupid, but they knew I wasn't focusing in class. So it doesn't matter how smart you are. If you're not focusing in class, you can't pass. Like, you're not doing the work right. So I'm good at learning at my own pace, which is usually quite faster than other people in a classroom of 30, 25 students, right?
Yeah.
Some people are going to be faster, some people are going to be slower. Doesn't make me smarter, doesn't make me or the other person dumber. It's just different pace of learning. And I like learning in isolation versus in a classroom. So historically, I never really liked school. Primary school, secondary school, I didn't like.
Do you think it's I'm in the chats? Do you think that is the case?
Getting deep.
Yeah, case. That's the case.
You do hear that a lot. I think the school system fails a lot of young black boys or males quite a lot. I haven't really read into that, so I can't really talk a lot about that. But yeah, I would say yes from what I've seen, and just one system can't serve all the people, all the spectrum of people. I think for the most part, right? So school just wasn't for me, but I love learning. Hence why I could drop out of uni and I've still been doing it for 15 years because I've clearly learnt along the way. And being talented, it helps. It gets you a few places, but it can't take you everywhere. And one thing I regret about dropping out of uni is that I didn't get no one opened the door for me into the industry. Whereas, you do your final year project and like they invite industry professionals in that agency, that studio, and that person from DA and AD and hit this creative director to come see the work, and anybody can get hired, or you can go start an internship or whatever you want to, start. And I was just like on the outside. So I saw some of my peers getting jobs. Some of them didn't. Most of them didn't actually. Some of them went to great places. Some of them started studios with people in their class or remained friends. But what I didn't have designer friends. I didn't have industry friends. So that's one thing I only realized as the years went on, because I dropped out and I started my own studio, and I eventually started my own like design school, which is mostly teaching Adobe Suite and a little bit of design. So kind of that's my journey. So eventually I was just working, did my own thing. I was just a young boy trying to do it, so it just inevitably didn't work out. I was dealing with some guys that eventually started stealing the money from me. So I had to kind of just shut it down. And then I went into work, and then the first design job I ever got was at TFL. Then I got fired. After 9 months.
We're not just going to gloss over that. You can't just say, then I got fired and moved on. What's the story about that one? I can tell you my story about what times I got be fired, but we could trade.
So this was 2015. And I'm only now realizing that I actually got fired due to racism. So it's my first design job, right? So TFL, you had to like do a task to go and interview, and I stayed up all night sweating, did the task, and I presented it really well because I had been teaching in a school. I was really good at like presenting ideas. So I nailed the presentation. So at the time, TFL was they had a team. Everybody was contracted on the team, right? So they were looking for a permanent team because one guy's on £600 a day, another guy's on £400 a day, another guy's on £800 a day. And you can imagine the bill. It's per day, not per week. Like per day, 6 bills. Like that guy's getting paid $3,000 a week. Like, you know what I mean?
Jesus.
So they're like, I can't pay someone $3,000 a week, $3,000 a month. Yeah, but like this is not sustainable. So they're looking for a more permanent team. So they're interviewing people. So the manager who hired me, he was contracted. He applied for the manager role, but they didn't give it to him. But he hired me, so he wasn't going to be my manager. So a new manager gets hired. And I'm sure he's thinking like, well, who hired this guy? Because he would say stuff to me like, so I had the old manager for like a month, and then the new manager came in and he immediately starts to put me on like a work review, and puts me in a meeting and says, "Oh, you're not good enough to be here. Like, you don't deserve to be here." So one time I go back angry to my desk. He's a white guy. I go back angry to my desk, and my colleague who I'm actually replacing, who I've become friends with, I'm supposed to be replacing, he's contracted. He's like, I'm down in it. And I'm a very chirpy guy. I'm a very happy guy. My spirit is always up in it. So he just see my demeanor just drop, and he's like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "Nothing." He's like, "No, Brian. Like, I know you only been sitting here for a month, but every day you come in and you're like, you're cheery in it. So I know what you're supposed to look like." And obviously he knows I just had a meeting. He's like, "Yeah, I told him what he said." He's like, "Don't listen to that guy." Like, he's like, "I don't even know why you're here. Like, as in, like, you should be contracting and you should be getting more money because you're really good." And I'm like, "I don't know anything about contracting or not like that. This is my first job, design job that I've ever applied to. I don't have no mentor. I don't have no industry people. I don't have no friends. I don't know what the status quo for a designer is, right?" Anyway, so he do 6 months probation, standard. He says he's not going to renew it. This is like 2 months before. He's like, he's not going to renew it. And he's going to like extend the probation like extra 3 months. And then he's going to like fire me. So I know I'm getting fired. But again, it's my first job. So I don't know nothing about no union. I don't know nothing about going to HR. I don't know nothing about that because literally my first job. So I don't know who to talk to. So 9 months comes and he fires me, lets me go. But during that time, I had a friend across the hall. She was a project manager. And she told me, she's a black girl. She told me that people are requesting me to get on projects. I have a whole system to request somebody. And then the project manager assigns it to like the team, the head of the team. But what was happening was when people were requesting me as a designer to design on to help them with something, he would take me off. If I didn't know her, I wouldn't know. And we had this thing every morning.
Wow.
We had this
dirty.
We had this thing every morning where you would stand up not every morning, every week, like Tuesday morning, you would stand in a circle and say what you're working on for that week. Every week, I would have to stand there and say, "Well, I've got nothing to work on," it's embarrassing, right? Your peers are like, "Yeah, I'm working on this, this, and this. Someone sent me that, and that. I'm still working on that." So then one of the other designers would have to be like, "Okay, no, I'll send you this. We can do this." Because how can I sit there every day, day in, day out, and have nothing to do? Like I did nothing. So like I did a few things. Like I changed I designed the Santander app. It was Barclays app. I changed it from Barclays to Santander. That was one of the big things I did. I did lots of small stuff, but there was weeks on weeks and days I wasn't doing anything because unbeknown to me, he was taking me off projects and then trying to embarrass me and trying to make it out like I couldn't do the work. But he was actively sabotaging me. And he would say stuff to me like, "Yeah, I've got a black wife," because his wife was from Barbados.
Oh. Come on,
and then I saw a picture on my desk and it's like, she's black, but
you all know that.
why are you saying that to me? Like, so it's only years now. I'm like, you know what? I should be still working in TFL because there would have been no reason to leave. It was good salary, it was good benefits, good job, good work. But this guy fired me because of racism. And then obviously I was still in contact with I became friends with the girl. She was still the project manager. She told me that 2 weeks later, the guy resigned. After he fired me, 2 weeks later, he resigned because nobody liked him
or something. Like,
because nobody liked him. So loads of people made complaints about him that he couldn't get work done. He didn't know what he was doing. So black designer getting a job, a good job, and being sabotaged by a person who wasn't even there 2 weeks after they fired you.
He wasn't even qualified to even.
He wasn't even qualified. He wasn't even good. He wasn't even good. So that was my first design job story. But after that, like 3 months after that, I got a job, first contract job. It was like £120 a day. Looking back on it, that was like nothing. But my first contract job, after not having a job, I was like, damn, I'm making like
you're balling.
£600 a week. Like,
come on now.
I'm gonna get a new laptop. Shit, I'm at the top spec. Give me a 1 terabyte hard drive.
Come on.
I was like, yeah. Like, you know what I mean? So this was the Conservative Party. And every time I say, "Oh, I work for the Conservative Party," they're like, "Right, like you," and I'm like, "No, like don't."
It's a job, man. Like,
it's a job. You don't have to be an athlete to work at a Nike store. Like, you know what I mean? It's like they were paying, and two things. I to this day I know nothing about politics. Well, I know more now that I'm older, but when I had the job, I didn't know anything about politics. I had no political design experience or anything like that. They didn't care because in the interview, the guy was like, "Oh, your CV is crap," and I don't know what he meant by that. I don't know if he meant it was design crap or I didn't present myself well. But he's like, "Your portfolio is really good, so if you're up for designing for us, we'll have you on." So that was the mayoral election. I was the only designer on the mayoral election, so I did every flipping thing on the mayoral election, like a bus, a billboard, a leaflet that was printed a million times, the manifesto, any merch that they had. Like it was a lot for one person to do. But you know, you're just black and you're just like a workhorse, and you're just like opportunity. Like they're paying me, so I was
like
there
it's
for
a favor for you to be there.
bruh. So obviously, again, I'm just fresh off the boat, second job. You know what I mean? So I'm just working my ass off. Like, but now that I look back at it, I'm like, there's at least been 2 or 3 of us, man. But yeah, it was hell because it was a mayoral election, so it was like we got 6 weeks to do hell of a lot of stuff. So I'm there early and leaving late. But then I think I contracted them for about 2 years, and then after a while they were looking for they were building their social media team. So they were like, "Oh, do you want to come and interview?" So I was like, "Okay, I'll interview." They didn't pick me in the interview. They had someone else, but then obviously they were still building out the team. So I interviewed again, and they hired me, and I was doing social media for like a year and a half. And then so by this time I had already done the mayoral election, I'd done local elections, and I'd done a general election for, what was that lady? The lady that they got booted out, Theresa May. So I'd done, so I'd done all these.
For everyone's for the past.
Well, exactly. Who are they, right? So I'd done all these elections, and then I was on the social media team, and that's when I really started kind of getting into social media. And after that, during that time as well, when I was contracting, I did a Kenyan election. So my manager had a friend in Kenya, and he called him. And he's like, "Do you have any designer? Like, we need a designer. Like, we're doing a general election over here. We need an extra designer." He's like, "Yeah, I got a person." So he comes to speak to me. So this is the end of our general election. So my wife was pregnant at the time, and she was 6 months pregnant, 7 months pregnant. And he's like, "I need you to fly over, if you're allowed, or if you can you fly over to Kenya for 2 months?" I know your wife's pregnant, but I was like, "What's the dates?" And he was like, I checked the dates, and it was like 10 days before my first son was going to be born. Oh. So I was like, I know my wife's going to say yes, but and her question would be like, "Can I come?" And I was like, you could come, but I don't think you should come because you're pregnant. Like, you know what I mean? So I'm like, obviously I need to make money in it because this contract has ended. I need to make money. So technically I need to fly. I flew over to Kenya for 2 months, did a Kenyan general election, came back with some money for the baby, and for the family. And I didn't work for the next 5-6 months because I had some money, which was nice. And then I went back to work with conservatives on a social media team. And that's when I really started getting into social media. Prior to that, I was just using it just like everybody else, just posting up fun pictures. So that's when I started doing social media, like really diving into like the knowledge about social media and personal branding and promoting yourself and all the different types of content on social media and stuff like that. And then I think, what we're in? So that 2018, I started doing social media. That was 6 years ago now. So I think last year I kind of slowed down on like doing social media because I had a job in social media. I'm like, this doesn't pay well. It's too hectic. It's too volatile. It's too all over the place. Let me go back to graphics, which I've got 15 years experience in, and let me go back and like start getting a design job, or just doubling down on my studio. So I had like a freelance, do a freelance in the background and whatnot, always doing graphics. So then I was like, let me like rebrand myself because it was just like everything I was doing was like a personal thing. So my studio was I was online calling myself the BKH, which is just my initials. I had my freelance business, which was called Hollingsworth, which is my surname, and everything felt very personal. And the place where I was working for social media, I was working for a friend of mine, and he unfortunately passed away. And what I realized is that he had a clothing company called like Fresh Ego Kid or something like that. He passed away, and what I realized, like, he has something that other people can grab and run with. So even though he's passed away, we're still working for Fresh Ego Kid, and we're still pushing it forward. And I was like, I don't have anything that anybody can run with. I've got Hollingsworth and it's my own name. So if anybody works with me, doesn't feel like it could be theirs. I've got the BKH, which is my personal brand. And I was like, I don't have anything that I could like sell off or because it's so attached to me. So I'm like, personal brand is cool, but I'm like, I want to have a company that maybe I can sell it to somebody and sell it with the clients or whatever, right? I'll answer that question in a sec. How did you find these opportunities? I could sell it off or whatever. So I just changed the studio name. So I just rebranded it, and I want it to be more of a studio. I want to work with other designers. I want to work on larger, longer, deeper projects rather than and I realized one thing I did realize, which we could talk about a bit more about later, was I was really hustling design. I didn't really have a studio. I didn't really have a strong foundation. I was like, whatever job came, I'll do it. And it often led to having really bad clients and really bad experiences. You give back money, and sometimes you start to think, is it me? You know what I mean? And it's not, but we'll talk about that in a sec. Let me just finish my very, very long story. That's 10 minutes now. It's not actually a minute.
Story. I'm just engaged. This is, I really like the story, but keep going.
Thank you. So then, where was I? Yeah, so I was like, let me create something where it's like the studio. So damn studio is just design and media. Because I'm like, what services I want to provide?
That makes sense.
And I'm like, design and media services. I'm like, I can't bother to think about a unique name. I know you've got a unique name for your studio. I'm like, I can't be bothered, man. I was like, design and media. Damn, all right, cool, that's it.
Sometimes the most straightforward solution is the best solution.
The damn studio, whatever. Cool beats, cool with me. Let me just get to the work, because I'm going to sit here all day thinking of studios and logos and names and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't matter. And I wanted to create that because I wanted to get a more solid foundation to what I was doing. And like in January, I said no to like 2 jobs. And I realized I'd never said no to a job before. And I was like, I feel like I'm growing. And I was like, I realized I was hustling design instead of actually having like a principled foundation where I would say no because of this, this, and this. So now I'm like, I didn't make any money in January, but progress in terms of like the type of clients I know I want, the type of people I want to work with, the type of people I just won't work with, I refuse to work with, because sometimes you take money from people and it's hell. And you're like, let me give this money back, man, and get back to heaven. So anyway, so this kind of past 18 months, I've been pursuing a better foundation for my kind of design business and practice and within myself. And I've also gone back to school. So I've now started my master's, which I started at the beginning of this month. So I've started my master's in design. Arts University of Bournemouth. So you can.
That's where I graduated.
Oh, that's where you graduated. Oh wow.
Yeah, that's where I graduated.
So I just literally just started. So it's an online part-time. So instead of it being 1 year, it'll be 2 years, which is usual for the masters. So it's online part-time, but they will have like sessions in there you can go to there. So I don't know how it's so funny because I've last year I think I just mentioned to my wife like, oh man, imagine if I can do my master's. She was like, of course you can. I was like, because I don't have a degree in nothing. So it's not like I never went to uni. So what I have is talent and experience. So then I don't know how. I think I just saw an ad on Instagram, and I was like, Instagram be listening to your conversation. So there's like, all of a sudden I'm like, masters. I was like, let me check this out, part time, online. All right, let me check it out. I could do that. Like, you know what I mean? Because obviously the fear is like having to go to uni, and I've got a family now, so it's like we're working, we might not have that time. So I was like, I think I could, and it's like it starts in June. I was like, instead of September, obviously normal every school year starts in September. I was like, I think I could do this, And my wife's like, I think you should apply. And that's like checking the requirements, and it's like obviously you need a degree, and I was like, if you have experience, like apply. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, you have to apply for a portfolio, your CV. So I applied, and they accepted me. And I was like, I'm really doing my master's. Like, it's like past 2 weeks, I'm like, student finance said yes. Like, wow. The uni said, I was sweating balls fixing up my portfolio and doing my personal statement. And I was like, everybody said yes. I'm like, okay, I guess I can really. And I'm like, wow. I haven't told anyone. So I'm telling you guys, but I haven't told anyone. The only people I know: my wife, my mom, my sister, my dad, and my auntie. So apart from that, I haven't told any friends.
We appreciate you.
I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm just going to graduate and invite you to the graduation party. And they'll be like, "What do you mean you graduated?" I'm like, "Yeah, I went back to uni." So yeah, I'm very excited to do the masters. Very happy. Very proud because again, just to get in on the experience and like not having a degree It just shows that you can. Thank you. In the chat saying, "Well done, wish me the best." You can get somewhere without necessarily having qualifications. You can be talented, you can have experience. And the reason why I kind of went back to school is again because I didn't feel like I was in the industry, right? And I don't have a community like this where I sit down with designers and chop it up. I've managed to connect with a few designers online, but for the most part, it's not like we chat in DMs every day. It's like reacting to content, whether it's your stories, whether it's your feed, whether it's your, logo designs or TikTok, whatever it is, it's more reactive than it is like just straight conversational. So I'm never really in a room where I'm like talking to creators. So it's like I need that because I'm trying to revitalize my creativity again. I'm trying to revitalize my career, my outlook on design, and all that kind of stuff. So that's the reason why I did it, why I went back to school. And also, like, I really want to just get better at design. Again, you know Photoshop and stuff like that, but there's loads of principles and other things that you could learn and you could get. So, all the way from that summer school to now doing my master's that's the story. That's awesome. The story. Yeah,
that is awesome. I love that, like how you've gone back and you've proven that you don't need a degree to get a master's. And, some people will be thinking, oh, but I've never gone to uni before, like you were thinking, and they'll rob themselves of the opportunity because of their assumptions, really.
Yeah. And all you have to do is just read the requirement, because I read a few requirements for a few different masters at different unis, and you can get in any masters on experience. And that just means like working in the industry, CV and a portfolio, right? Yeah. And you probably might not think that your portfolio is enough, but if some people go straight from undergrad to postgrad, they don't have a portfolio. Do you know what I mean? They don't have a portfolio of extensive work, but a lot of them do it right after and they get on it. So it's not that you need 15 years of experience. I probably could have done it at 10 years. I don't know. I wouldn't have known because I wasn't thinking that I should go back to it, right? And I'm trying to do the thing that I missed out when I went to uni, and just kind of learn again. You know what I mean? So, and just commune again with my peoples. You know what I mean?
Exciting.
Yeah,
it's really exciting.
And that's why I didn't even went to Bournemouth.
Bournemouth is great. I know you're doing it online, but like, it was like living there for like 3 years was really great. And I think for me, maybe it just wasn't the right time. Maybe. To go to university, because I was going mainly because it was supposed to be done, rather than really looking at.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like in my head, it's like that's the logical next.
You just got to tick the box.
Yeah. But like my mindset wasn't there. It wasn't really there. And I didn't like the way I was learning much either. So but it just wasn't for me at the time. But maybe one day I might do a master's in branding or something like that.
And, you should. I don't see why not, man. Why not? I don't see why not, because when you and like for me, it's like, because I've had so many bad experiences with like people. Like one of the client I said to know in January, he was like, "Oh, like what program do you use?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, like Adobe, Photoshop, InDesign, Illustrator." And he's like, "Oh, I've never heard of those." Like I use Canva because they've done some of their own stuff. Yeah. And I'm like, well, I've used Canva. I don't use it on a daily basis, but I've used it. I'm aware of it. But it's not a professional design tool. It's for regular people, right? Yeah. Which is good. But and he was like, I've never heard of it. I'm like, why would you have heard of it? You're not a designer. Like, do you know what I mean? And it's like,
that's why he should pay you.
And then if I say, oh, I'm like, I've got a master's degree, they're like, oh, you're serious? I'm like, yeah. You know what I mean? Like you take people are gonna have to take you serious because they know you're not joking about what you do. It's not a joke. To go and do a BA or an MA, it's not a joke. You know what I mean? So people are gonna have to take you a lot more seriously. But I think you should definitely do it. I don't see why not. Come join me in online, innit?
See you online. I want to just move on to like, because you've touched on such interesting points there about
bumps left to right,
and like no, it's great. I like it. That's how these things happen. I wanted to touch on one of the things based on one of the comments as well, saying how you found these opportunities. Now imagine someone they've been doing graphic design, and like you said, they've been hustling, right?
Yeah.
And just being a hustling graphic designer and just taking any job that comes. But imagine you're just starting out your studio. You've been doing graphic design for a bit, but you just want to kind of take it seriously. Like you can even want to start this studio, right?
Yeah.
But you're still getting these clients that are not the ones that you want, right? But you need the money, innit? Like
You need the money.
So what practically, how do you get the clients that you do want? Because a lot of people are saying, oh, you need to niche and all that kind of stuff, which I'm all for and all that kind of stuff. And I do like the idea of that.
Yeah.
But is it realistic? And like, how do you actually get to those clients? Because you were saying people word of mouth and all that kind of stuff. But like the skill of actually finding those clients that you need, like how would you practically do that?
So I did a lot of word of mouth. I had a lot of word of mouth clients, but it's too far and few between. Just to sit here all day and wait for somebody to hear about you, right? Or wait for somebody to recommend you. So you can fuel your word of mouth by going outside and like talking to people. So one of my jobs I got, so I've been working with this company for like 2.5 years now. They do reports. They're called Clearview Research. They do report. They're a black-owned company. There's a guy called Kenny. He was like wrongly accused for murder. Went to jail. He's got a book out now. He's doing a book tour, and he started a company with two of his other friends. And it's called Clearview Research. So they do companies hire them. They pay them to do research on disenfranchised, underprivileged communities, or not underprivileged, what's the word I'm looking for?
Represented?
Underrepresented, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Underrepresented community. So Black, Asian, could be Gypsy, it could be whatever community that people or companies want to know about, but they don't know about, and they don't have any means of knowing about them. So they do research on like healthcare. It could be like racism in healthcare. It could be pollution in these communities, right? And they make reports, 60-page reports, 30, 40, 50-page reports. They send them to me in Word, and I design them. I've been working for 2.5 years. The way I got that job was I have another designer friend who I've just known from back in the day from Bible studies. He does a few things, so design is not his main thing. So one day, he's friends with him. So he called him and said, oh, like, I need someone to design a report by, like, Monday, and this is Friday. Because the person who he had got to design it just effed up the report, right? It was just a mess. And he found out that the woman who said she was designing it wasn't designing it. She was fobbing it off to someone else, I think was in India. So he was under the impression that she was going to do it.
Yeah.
And it was like going through another person to another person, and it was just total crap. So he's like, it's Friday. I think it was even due that Friday, but it's like he obviously spoke to his client and said, I've got to give it to you on Monday. So I had to do it over the weekend. And this is like a 60-page report. This is the first time I'm doing it. Graphs, charts, text, images, formatting, all of this kind of stuff, right? Yeah. You can imagine. So I'm like, cool, I'll do it. He's like, he can't do it. So I was like, I'll do it. So I have a conversation with the guy, and he's like, oh, like, are you the designer? And I'm like, yeah, like, that's a weird question to ask. Like, if you're talking to me, I'm the designer. And he's like, and I'm like, why'd you ask? And he's like, oh, because the last person said she was the designer. She fobbed it off to some guy in India, and it was rubbish. So I need to make sure that it's going to get done, because if it doesn't get done, I'm in deep doo-doo, right? So I did that first report, knocked out. I didn't sleep for like 2 days, because it's the first time I'd done it. I'd never done a 60-page report. It was hell. But I did it. It was like $300. I didn't really know how to price it either. So I was like, yeah, I priced it at what my day rate was from conservatives, which was £120 a day. But I just added a little bit. But I didn't want to go too high.
Yeah.
To make it, and I think I added like an extra £100 because it was like a rush fee. Again, should have been more, but I didn't know. I learned the hard way, because I never had a mentor, never worked in a place. So, but since then, I knocked out of the park. And since then, I've been working with them for 2 years. I do all their reports. I do some of their proposals. I do some of their presentations as well. So that was just word of mouth and a friend. So get peers. You know what I mean? I'm only here because I know Demi from the internet. If we've spoken briefly about like, oh, if you have work or if I have work, I know what you do. I'll forward them to you. Like I said to him, like, I don't want to do logos anymore. Like I've done logos, I'm okay at them, but they're not fun. But he loves doing logos. So I'm like, I don't know if we're gonna like maybe like work together, depending on what the scope of the project is or whatever, or if I can just simply pass a person over to you. You don't need to pay me or nothing. I need to take it. I don't care. I don't do logos, but I know a really good guy who does logos. So I think one of the things is like make friends. Again, this is why I missed out on uni. I know some of you may have not gone uni or whatever, but even if you haven't gone uni, make friends online. Go to like design meetups, be in communities like this. I didn't have this kind of thing 10 years ago. You know what I mean? Once I left uni, the internet weren't popping like this. We didn't have Instagram, accounts called Where's the Black Designers, or Instagram accounts where designers are all communal or Slack groups or the Discord channels. We didn't have this, right? I didn't even have YouTube. I didn't even learn from YouTube, right? I learned from magazines and books. Like I didn't have YouTube. I created Review magazine, like a creative art, computer arts magazine, like they don't even make that no more. That's how old I am. Like, I still got the magazines in my living room.
Old, man.
I'm like, we're not even that old, like, you know what I mean? So
I know, right?
A lot has changed. So I think one of the things is that people will recommend you when they can't do stuff. They'll say, I know a person who can do it. And that's where I've gotten most of my work from, like literally other designers or other people. And two, you've got the internet. Like the internet equals reach. You've got LinkedIn, which is a professional site, so you can find professional leads. You can communicate with other professionals and connect and leave comments on your peers. You can go and find friends on there. I know Demi from Instagram, but I know a bunch of other people from LinkedIn. Just leaving a comment. That's how you start conversation, right? So, if there's ain't a physical space you can go to, there's a virtual space. And you could just connect with people. I talk to anyone. I connect with anyone. I'll DM you. I'll react. I'm not too scared to react to anyone's content, even if I don't know you. That's how you begin to know people, right? So I think just put yourself out there. Put your work online. Spread it. Dribble, DeviantArt, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. Challenge. Make a challenge and challenge yourself. Demi's currently online challenging himself to redesign logos that nobody asked him to do. That's a personal challenge for himself, right? And you get thousands of views, and if someone's going to see it like, wow, what, bling, bling, I am asking you to do my logo. Do you know what I mean? Because
I guess a funny request from those was hilarious.
Oh, serious? Well, from phone calls? Or
can you do the logo for free? I just ignore that one.
No.
Just ignore the direct inquiries from them,
you're going to have to like put in the sweat work. And sometimes you might have to email a company and say, hey, we do this. Cold email them, right? Or connect with them on LinkedIn and DM them, or get the email of a person, in HR or like, creative director or whoever, and email them and say, hey, I do this. Do you guys need some work? Or just put your work out there and people can see it and say, oh, I see, you're taking on work or whatever, right? Apply for contracts, get to know people, man. It's really just how much work no one's going to know you if you're just, in your bedroom, like I am behind a computer and then close a laptop. No one's going to know you. Do you know what I mean? So it's about self-promotion, really and truly. It's really about self-promotion and using things like blogs, websites, social media, emails, all of that kind of stuff to just really get yourself out there. And like you can make a challenge, like Demi, make a challenge online. At one point in my very early, before I was making any money, I challenged myself to do a design every day for a month. At least 25 of the designs was terrible. But the challenge wasn't to make great designs. It was to work. It was to learn. It was to like sweat. And if I always remember that challenge. And if I didn't, some cool stuff came out of it. Most of it was rubbish, but it was to get me on a computer every day and not get lazy, right? The same way if you go to the gym 5 days a week, the same way if you're a musician, you're probably in the studio singing or writing or making beats or whatever it is you do. Or if you're sewing, you make clothes. You challenge yourself to design every day and get better. You don't wait for a client. Do you know what I mean? Because there won't always be clients. There's plenty of clients to go around, but it's hard to find clients. But the best way is to put yourself out there, keep your skills very, very sharp, and talk to people. Remind people that you're alive. Let people know you're here. Yeah, let people know you're here and show them what you can do. It's not time to be shy. It's not time to be timid. It's not time to be scared. It's time to be like, yo, I'm here. This is what I can do. Even if it's not, and we tend to judge ourselves like, oh, he's doing something great. Mine isn't as good as that. It doesn't matter. Like, you want to be broke, or you want to do this, or you don't want to do this. Do you know what I mean? Do you want to get work, or you don't want to get work? So you really have to put yourself out there. And this is why I kind of really started the BKH, because I realized I was just hiding, and the internet was an opportunity to put myself online. Do you know what I mean? And the amount of opportunities I get just from putting every kind of speaking engagement I do or podcast I do, I say the only reason I'm here is because I'm online. I don't know Demi from nowhere. I don't know you. I never met you in real life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like I know you through friends or anything. Our parents don't know each other. I know you from leaving a comment, and we go back and forth in the comments.
Yeah.
That's where I know you from. I know from seeing your work and you seeing my work and us just chopping up. That's why I'm here talking today in the Black Design Circle. You know, no other reason. So make yourself known. Otherwise, you know what they say, closed mouths don't get fed, innit? Closed laptops and phones, locked phones don't get fed, I guess. That's how you find opportunities. Like you find you dig. You know what I mean? You dig. Like if you're looking for gold, start digging. Otherwise, it ain't gonna pop out the ground. You're gonna become a gold digger, you know?
You just won't
or work digger.
by magic. Yeah, you gotta be strategic with these kind of things, because we're so used to, not even used to it, but like I think it's networking is a skill. And it's a skill that you have to practice. And if you don't network, you're not gonna learn how to like talk to people and all that kind of stuff. Like I've been going to some meetings, and like just for the sake, and it's not like I'm going out to find a client necessarily. But it's about just meeting people and connecting with people so that you become the person that's in their memory. You know, I've met with like brand designers, web designers, copywriters and stuff like that. So you know, eventually they're gonna come to me and be like, "Oh, actually, I have this, you know, project. Are you interested?" You know, so it's like planting a seed. You know what I mean? Like you can't and you have to plant it early because it takes a while.
There's the African proverb: you don't eat the fruit the same day you plant the seed.
That's a good proverb, but
so it's going to require patience. You might start for a couple of months. I had to work in Sainsbury's. I had to work in Marks and Spencer for a while, and I worked in Sainsbury's. I was working in Sainsbury's for like 10 months, and I didn't realize. So I had a depressive period because my sister had died, so I kind of stopped designing for like 18 months, and I worked in retail. This one I kind of gave up on life, to be honest. And I needed a job, so I worked in Marks and Spencer for like a month, but because it was like 4 a.m. to 1 p.m., it was just pure hell. Then I worked in Sainsbury's, and then 10 months had passed, and I hadn't realized I'd been working there for 10 months. And it kind of, something slapped me, and I was like, what am I doing? I'm a designer, like I design. Like, what am I doing? And like, because it was getting to a year, and I'm like, I couldn't have been here for a year. Like, what the fuck? So I quit, and I started working on my portfolio, and I started applying for jobs like crazy, and that's when I got the TFL job. So I kind of snapped out of it. So it's like you gotta dig, man. Like you gotta realize, like, look, you gotta go get it because it's not gonna come to you. You're not gonna sit around and someone's gonna find you if you don't even have work out there. Arguably, I can do a lot more self promotion. I think everybody can, but
it's always hard to promote yourself because what I'm going to get onto is like when you run your own studio and you have to wear multiple hats, and you know if you can't just be the designer. If you know. If you own a studio, you have to be the social media marketer. You have to be the accountant. You have to be the HR person. I give you some holidays. You have to be while running a family. While something that I've experienced. From my experience, just a little thing. I got let go from a job about a year ago, just over a year ago, and due to kind of similar reasons, but not so over. It wasn't over, but like. Not so obvious, right? And it was a situation where I was basically just cold frozen. You know when people just kind of withdraw themselves from you, and they make you like the loner. So they did that to me at the workplace, and and then they just decided not to keep me on, even though I was doing the work.
Of course.
And so I was just like, okay, fine. But I had just been married. You see what I mean? I had just gotten married, and since then, I've just been doing like my own thing, and it hasn't been easy. So I've had to learn so much about the reality of running your own studio, because some people they'll see like they'll see the Chris Does online, and they'll see all these other experts who have done the grinding, and they've suffered,
and they're like 45, so
they're 40 something, and it's like we look at them, we're like, oh, we should be where they're at.
You can't not do it.
But just checking if you're still there. Okay, cool. We should be we
can go over. I got time.
We assume that we I think the Wi-Fi just cut us.
Yeah.
But we don't give ourselves the time to experience those things and those hardships. Like, it's been hard, man. It's been hard. Like, I've just been like, and just one of those things, like knowing your value, teaching yourself to know your value. Like, even for me, I'm practicing sending out prices in order for them to say no. Because like, my wife said something very interesting, and just today she said something interesting, and she's not a designer. She said, don't lower your price in order for them to say yes. Increase your price so that it's worth your while. Because that's the most important thing, is for it to be worth your while, and not taking on products like you talked about. Is there anything that you can add to that?
So wives are great people, first of all. Because my wife said something similar to me, and this is the reason why I said no in January. Because I gave them a price, and she's like, that price is... So it was a friend, old friend of mine, who wanted to do like a big event, right? And I gave him the price, which was very reduced, like very, very reduced. And my wife was like, you gave them a price that is not even worth anything to you. It's almost like you're doing them a favor now. And then they came back to me and flinched at the price and said they wanted to half it. Their budget was, in their mind, like, was half that. And I had to explain to them that it's just like, it's actually impossible. As in, if I was to work, because the event was supposed to be in June, subsequently they haven't done the event, right? This was in January. They wanted to hire me for like 6 months and certain scope of work per month. And I was like, that doesn't even make sense. Like, do the maths. That doesn't. They wanted to. In their head, their budget was like £600.
That's not worth.
And I'm like, for 6 months of work, £600. And I had to say no. And they were quite offended that I said no. And they were like, oh, we'll pay your original price. I'm like, it's still no, because you don't understand the value that I would be bringing. So each and every thing that we do, we work together, you wouldn't understand the value. And I've never said this to anybody before. I never said no to a client. I always said yes, because again, I needed the money, no matter how little or how much it was or whatever. And I think you have to get to a point where you understand your worth, again, and you know your worth. And my wife was like, even though we need the money this month, because who doesn't need money every month if you live in England? She was like, I'm proud of you, because you're now like, your value, your self-value and your self-worth is worth more than money. Basically. And if you get that right, you can get paid a lot of money, because you know where your value is actually at, and you know what you're actually bringing to the table. And again, if now I do my masters, my chest is like this. Like, who's going to say anything to you? Do you know what I mean? So if you feel like you didn't have that much value now, no one can say nothing to you. You've got your degree, you've got your experience, you've got your talent. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, look at yourself in the mirror and put, like, I'm the man. You know what I mean? You've got to really tell yourself, because not everyone's going to have a wife. Everyone's going to have a great wife that's going to tell you, like, yo, like, what are you doing, you idiot? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're worth more than this, bro. Like, don't let me look like I'm marrying a fool. Like, you know what I mean? So I think even with the hustle thing, sometimes it's going to feel like a hustle, and I think that's okay. I think even big studios hustle, you know what I mean? But I think the hustle, you can't hustle to the extent where it's like you've discounted yourself 90%. That's not hustling. That's just devaluing. And when you devalue yourself, you devalue me, you devalue Demi, you devalue your colleagues, you devalue every other designer, because they're going to go over to another designer and expect £50 logos and designs and free logos, because one designer didn't value themselves enough to give them the right price. But if we all say our price is here, what they're gonna do? But pay it. So I had a client that went to Fiverr, and then he came to me. Again, another friend from college. He went to Fiverr. This is like we're way past college now. He went to Fiverr, and he's like, because they see you online, but it's only until they're doing something that they remember. Oh yeah, Brian does design, right? He went to Fiverr. They gave him a terrible logo, and he's like, can so guess what? He's paying twice now, because I'm sure he didn't pay that much for the Fiverr one, but it still could have been money in his pocket, right? Yeah. And I'm charging him my price for a logo, and he's paying twice, but he's only receiving one good thing from it, right?
Yeah.
So there's people out there that are making us look bad. Yeah. So when people come to you, they expect the level of value that person's given at that price, and it's like, well, this is a professional. I'm a professional designer. Yeah. What you're asking for is like, I don't even know what you're asking for. Even someone fresh out of uni wouldn't even charge you that.
It's just disrespect. I think we as a community should be more transparent about the amount we charge.
Yeah.
And because it can be very tricky, because sometimes I have my own rates, and then I see someone else online and I see their rates, and I'm like, wait, how come you're charging this much and I'm only charging this much? There's something going on here, and it's just kind of like, of course, everyone chooses how much they charge, but like, if we were all more transparent about our way of charging and how we work out our rates, I think it would be very valuable to the community, because a lot of us we don't really know
how are we gonna know
working this out.
How are we gonna and on top of that, I don't want to add too much race element to it, but on top of that, like being black.
This is add race element. This is
okay.
It's a black design circle. So the black experience, you can talk it up. It's all good.
I didn't even think about it. Yeah, so being black, you're sometimes scared to, like, you might have to lower your rate because you don't want to lose the work. It's kind of like why companies outsource all their call centers to India, or all their manufacturing to China, is because they can get cheap work, or Africa because they can get child labor or really, really cheap work, cheap labor. Whereas in London, you can't necessarily. So you can't compete with someone getting paid £1.25 an hour in wherever they're manufacturing something. So I think sometimes you feel like I have to compete with a low price, and you never want to do that because it's a race to the bottom, and you don't want to get to the bottom. You know what I mean? And I think you should always be like, my price is my price, and one day somebody's going to pay my price and see my value. I just have to find that person. And I don't think I've settled for so much nonsense. It's a bit of insecurity, but not all the time. It's like sometimes I need money. I need money. And it's okay. Too. Yeah, it's life. So sometimes you might have to sell yourself short or do things that you don't necessarily like or have fun with. Every project can't be a fun project. Every project can't be the big money project. Every project can't be like notoriety. I've done loads of little projects, quick projects, long projects I wish I didn't do, but it doesn't matter. Sometimes you might get a client that lasts 2 years, 6 months, 1 year. Some client you never want to hear from again. The other person I said no to in January, I said no because I worked with him before and it was hell. I had to chase him for 3 months for an invoice. And when I say chase, I mean like, so he has 2 companies. So he has the Fresh Orchid company, which I was doing the social media for. So I'd worked with him closely in the office every day. And prior to that, he has another company. They do software for gambling machines in Vegas to make you gamble more, right? So they're doing like 40, 50 million a year, whatever, in Vegas, in the US, but they started it here. I did some work for them. I did their wallpaper in their office. I did some merch for them. It took him 3 months to pay me that invoice. Pardon me. And when I say, as in like I was behind his shoulder, in his office, watching him email finance, because I kept saying, "Yo, have you emailed them? Have you emailed them?" And he says, "Come right now and watch me email them." And he was like, "Oh, forward the invoice again because it's been so long, got lost in the email." So I forwarded the invoice again. And I'm like, I'm not working for you because I need to get paid at the end of the month, not in April. And it wasn't good working with you anyway. So even though you paid, all money isn't good money. If I have to chase the invoice, and I've never chased invoices before. Every client I've usually worked with usually pays me on time. And on time means straight away, or when the work is finished, a couple hours later, or at the end of the month, when they pay all the other employees. And I've never had to chase someone and say, yo, when invoice didn't get paid? And I would chase you. I will email you and say, yo, because I've done the work, so where's the money? And that's another thing. Never be afraid to chase an invoice because it's just your money. So never be afraid. Never be afraid to chase an invoice. Never be shy. Never be timid. Never wait. If they ain't paid you, holler at them. Because if you ain't done the work, they're going to holler at you. You know what I mean? So yeah. So saying no is as big as saying yes. And you probably hear this about all the time, but like seriously, if the money's too little and the work is too much, say no. And you will feel like, wow, I have value. It's like, ask any woman, yeah, how many guys they've said no to.
Say no to.
We don't have the privilege of saying, I'm not cute enough to get to say no to women all the time. I don't have that privilege. I'm not a superstar. I don't get girls flocking to me. I'm like, not you. But women have that privilege of saying no to 10 guys and saying yes to the 11th guy because that's their guy, right?
Yeah.
You know, so they know how to say no. And they know how good it feels to say no because you can say no. But us guys, we just have to work and we just have to accept what we get and we just have to try our luck. And I think, making it gender-based now.
That's hilarious.
and I think we should practice no's. Yeah, you get that analogy. And I think we should just practice saying no because of how much you value yourself.
Yeah. There's a lot of inner work there going on. And that's something that everyone's still trying to do it.
For life.
Like there's a really cool designer in the US called Marshall Fox, and he charges I think he's doing like $50K for like brand or something like that. Yeah. And he's like, I'm charging peanuts. And he said, even me, I have to work on my self-belief. And I'm like, you're charging
like $50K.
So much, $50K. That's a dream.
You know?
Yeah, and if it was for
give me $50K, I'll be living. I'll a project.
Cool. That'll be comfy.
I'll live a good life.
just give me one $50K project. I'm comfy.
Yeah, I'll live a very good life. Yeah,
and take my wife on holiday.
Yeah, bro.
And I'll be happy. But like, where's we just, especially when we touched on like being in the Black community, like it's so. I think there's a myth that Black people don't have money, right?
Yeah, it's not true.
Black people have money. They just don't spend it in the place that you want to. They spend it because
in the value. Yeah,
they'll buy the latest iPhone.
Yep.
They'll buy the PS5.
Go to party.
Yeah, go DLT. They'll go on holiday. You know, they'll fix their car when it's smash up, right?
Yep.
They'll buy houses and stuff. They have money, right? The problem is that we assume that they don't have money. And that's something I'm working on because the assumption of like that my people don't have money is wrong.
So you want to give them a discount or going to put it at this price.
Yeah. And we're like, let me just change my circle. Let me just go get the white clients because that will guilty about charging them more. But no, because that shouldn't be the case. We should all be charging Black people the right price so that they don't, because we've created this culture of we need to do each other favors. But like,
don't do me a favor
from anywhere. Like, why do I need to do you a favor?
Do me a favor.
Yeah, you're not doing me any favor. Like, this is a business transaction, but like, especially if you come from an African culture, this thing of like, my brother.
And that's what they were trying to do to me in January, and I'm like, no, my price is my price. There's no my brother, my friend, my
like, it's business at the end of the day.
So they were like. They were like, oh, we need to pray over you. We need to pray for your invoice. It's not going to be too high. You know, we need to go to church. I replied, I said, mashallah. I said, inshallah. Were you going to pray too? I'm not Muslim, but get what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
This is not a brotherhood, brother. Yeah.
They try it.
The only design I do for free are funeral invites, party invites. Because that's all family. That's family people.
Yeah,
Everybody
it's
asks me
family
for a
stuff.
funeral invite or a funeral booklet or a party invite. I can't charge you for your mom's 60th party invite. I mean, or dad's funeral, invite that for the party or whatever. So that's the only stuff I do for free, or my own stuff, right? The stuff that I want to do for free. Never do. And there used to be this thing called, I think it's like Creative Live. This white guy on YouTube, but he doesn't do it anymore. I can't remember what it was called. And he said, if you're gonna, this is a principle. He said, if you're gonna, you either do it for free or you do it for full price. Never do it for low, because if you do it for full price, the person knows your value, you get your full price, and you get to work. If you do it for free, the person knows you're doing it for free, and that gives you control because they know you're doing them a favor. So if it's like charity or whatever, of course, but like free would be like for your friend. Right, like for your friend who's like starting a podcast, like, oh, give me a quick logo or something like that. Like, I'm talking about your longtime friend or your cousin or your family. You're like, okay, I'm not going to charge you, but whatever I give you, you take.
Yeah.
You can't. We're not going to go back and forth. We're not going to do You're not going to act like you're a real client. I'm going to do the work like you're a real client, but you're not going to act like you're paying full price. So you can't tell me this and that and the other. It's not your project. It's my project, and because I'm doing it for free, so you have control. So you either do it for 100% and you have control and you're going back and forth with the client and you're collaborating, or you do it for free and you have control. But if you do it for cheap, all you're doing is selling yourself short. And you can't, it's like telling Beyonce to do a show and but don't do it like you always do it. Do it like maybe a little bit like it. I don't want the Beyonce show. I want maybe like a small version of it. You know what I mean? So when Beyonce usually does her tour, it goes crazy. So when they asked her to do Coachella, which is she's sharing the stage with other artists, right, one after the other, Beyonce doesn't just come there and run on stage. She brings the band, she did the varsity theme, right? She brought the bleachers on the stage. She had the cheerleaders and the marching band. Yeah. No one has ever done that, and I'm pretty sure no one will probably ever do that again at Coachella specifically, because Beyonce can't just do it how the other people been doing it at Coachella, because that's what she brings. Yeah. So you either go 100% or you go 0. But if you go 20% of your rate or 30, give a 60% discount, does that mean you give 60% effort? Because you can't do that. And why would you give 60% effort? Because you're gonna now make something that you don't even like or you don't even want. So go 0 or go 100. But either way, it's your choice. You know what I mean? And it's like too many times I've discounted it because I thought, the person didn't have money. Well, if they didn't have money, then you can't work with me. The same way I don't have a PS5 right now because I can't afford a PS5 right now. And I can't get the £200 version because there isn't one. So it's like, I have the money for a PS5. You get it? So it's like, I have the money for a PS5 or I don't. Do you know what I mean? This is not the supermarket. It's not like £2 bread versus 80p bread. And you can taste the difference as well. Do you know what I mean?
That little sliced bread.
That
M&S bread.
I think I bought like 27p Tesco bread one time, and I was like, never again. It was like eating a mattress. I was like, never again. Like,
I
just I'll buy the £1.50 bread. It's not breaking the bank, but it gives you a better experience. Do you know what I mean? So it's like never ever sell yourself. If there's anything that anybody takes from this, is never sell yourself short, man, because you will regret it. Because you were like, all this for $50, like all this for $80, like. Oh, and then you're tempted to do it again.
Yeah. You set a precedent because
you set for yourself.
Yeah. You train yourself to always lowball your offers, and then you train people. The problem is you do a cheap job for someone, and then they tell other people that they have money about it. It's like, how did I get here?
You're stuck.
But like if you set the standard from the beginning, I know
and people respect you
though. Like, you're just like, oh, I need money. But it's also, it has to go to the point, like, I'd rather die.
No, Jam.
Like,
I'm real.
Like, it's just like, I can't keep doing that because it's not sustainable.
Yeah, and once you're doing crappy, underpaid work for someone else, you're missing out on another opportunity that could be a better opportunity for you, because you're wasting your time, you're stressed, you're busy, you're not looking for other opportunities because you're busy doing this, something that's beneath you. And it's like, when you say like, this is my price, they actually start to respect you. Even if they don't have it, they'll be like, okay, wow, like I thought I could like single you down and like do the brother thing or the sister thing, right? And like, yeah, Jesus, we go to church. And it's like,
Yeah.
alhamdulillah, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Oh,
Exactly.
it's the universe. I'm praying to the universe, actually. What are you saying now? Like, do you know what I mean? So it's like, again, in our community, sometimes people are going to be like, oh, my brother must, like, listen, my phone bill account, my O2 is not taking my brother, my sister. I have to pay the full price because I understand the value I'm getting from the phone, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, stand, you know, stand on business, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, stand on your, like, bet on yourself. But like, don't, like, bet on yourself, innit? Because when some people are betting on football, they're betting that Arsenal is going to win and they be losing. You know what I mean? So bet on yourself.
Yeah.
Bet on yourself. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yo, I'm really a designer. I'm really gonna do my best.
Yeah.
You know, I'm really gonna go through my process and give you the best thing. Because someone can't be asking you to help them design something that they're going to make money on.
Yeah. That's what my wife said today as well. She was just like, what you're designing for these people, they are going to be set. They can make more money from it. And
Perpetually.
And I tell other people this, but when it comes to my own business, I'm like, oh, I forget. Why do I forget? That's why the best hack is to have a good wife, you know, because
Bro, I'm telling you, get married, guys.
So they've just got to get back. or post it in the community and just let us know. I will tell you. Like, I will straight up tell you if you're charging too little. Like, there's graphic designer friends that I've had, and they told me how much they're charging for something, and I've looked at them and I'm like,
are you serious? Like,
can you live on this?
Yeah.
You're good. The fact that they're coming to you shows that you're the...
And this work is going to take 3 weeks.
Like, do yourself...
Unless you're eating bread and sardines, you're not going to survive.
And you're not just supposed to... The thing is, like, you're not just supposed to survive, you're supposed to live. Like, you're supposed to have a good life.
You're supposed to be able to afford a new laptop eventually.
Yeah, exactly. You know? I start struggling to get the subscription for Adobe.
I was literally about to say, I was like, you know, you're paying £56 for Adobe every month.
As in?
You know, you're not paying anymore. Now I'm happy because I'm getting it for £16.
Let me go and let me join the master side again.
I saw they emailed me that it was going up to £58. I said, wow. Like, I know I use this thing to make money, but £60 a month. Oh my God.
It pains me, my heart. Every time that bill comes on my account, I'm shaking.
Luckily for me, so I signed up for the £16 student discount, right?
Yeah. And
then I realized that the uni gives it to us for free. I just cancelled that thing, man. Now I'm not paying nothing.
Straight up.
I cancelled it. Because so obviously you do the annual billing, but because it started a new yearly contract, it hadn't I had the cancellation period, so I got the £16 back without having to pay like the rest of the year. So I'm like, listen, as long as I'm at uni, I'll be getting it for free. So that's me set. So maybe go back to uni and get Adobe for free.
Yeah, that's it. That's probably that's if any reason, that's the main thing. I want to jump on a couple more questions because
of course.
I know we've been on here. I would talk about this for.
I'm a yapper. Clearly, I'm clearly a yapper.
We're going to continue having this conversation. Yeah. But like, I just want to touch on a couple of questions from the chat. How do you feel about the new Adobe T and Cs? Is it about the AI stuff? Or... Yeah. Okay.
I had to scroll down.
I'm not entirely familiar with it, but from what I've seen on Instagram and stuff is that they're basically scrubbing all your work to feed their robots, basically, to teach their robots stuff. How do you feel?
Yeah. Okay, so
general opinion of AI and creativity.
Right. So I saw what was happening online. I read a little bit about it. Generally, when things tend to go online, especially places like Twitter, it's outrage that tends to spread things really quickly, and it's outrage without knowledge. So a lot of people don't really read, or when they read, they don't have understanding. They don't even know what they're reading. They just start running with it. And you see this a lot. You see this a lot online. Yeah. So I read it. I did a lot of reading. One of the Behance, the guy who started Behance, is Scott Belsky. He now, obviously, Adobe bought Behance years ago, and he works for Adobe. He was trying to clarify, and they put out a blog post clarifying what this actually means. So it's not that they will scrub your work necessarily, but it's just a very common template, terms and conditions that anybody that uses the cloud has to, Dropbox has this, WeTransfer has this. Any business that uses cloud services has to have that in their T's and C's in order to store your work. So this is not for work saved on your computer, which is what I always do. This is for work that you might be using in Adobe Express. This is for work that you will be saving in the cloud, because then you have, when you sign up, you have 100 gig cloud storage. So you can, you know, if you're not at home and you're on your work computer or you're in somebody else's computer or whatever, you can access your cloud storage and download work without having your laptop and your physical files or even your hard drive, right? So that, it didn't say that we are going to scrub it and use it for AI, because I tell you what, Adobe is, I think, the only company, and they started, I don't know what it's called right now, but it's like an AI, I wouldn't call it a union, but like a corporate responsibility AI thing, ethical AI. So they're not necessarily going to scrub people's work, because obviously it's very easy for them to do. They have the largest access to the largest creative community in the world. It's very easy for them to scrub all of our work and use it to power the AI. They haven't done that. You can actually go to their website and find out how Firefly, their generative AI, actually works ethically versus how ChatGPT works by scraping Reddit, scraping Twitter, scraping the internet, right? They're doing it in a more ethical way. So I think people haven't done enough research, and it's very easy to just read something and start running. You can do that with any book. People have done that with the Bible for a millennia, taking something out of context and just run with it without actually understanding what it actually is. And Scott Belsky was trying to do firefighting on Twitter, and it just clearly wasn't working. Everyone's like, I'm leaving, I'm doing this. I'm not leaving Adobe, because Adobe has fed my family for decades. I don't save any work in the cloud or anything like that, but I'm not too bothered about them necessarily scraping my work at this point in time. And this kind of goes on to the AI stuff. I think the ethical part of AI definitely needs to get better. Definitely needs to get better.
Yeah.
And it probably will get better over time, because I think people are going to be speaking up about it. Give me a second. I need to find. I'm not on camera. I'm still on camera if I go into another tab.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Still on camera. Yeah.
Let me try and do two things at once. So I've been messing around with Adobe Firefly, which is their generative, obviously AI, and they give you 1,000 credits every month if you pay for the Creative Suite. I've been messing around with it. It's all right. It's good. It's not as good as like Midjourney, clearly, if you've ever seen a comparison, but it's gonna get better. I've been trying to figure out ways that I can integrate it into my work. I'm not a photographer. I don't take photos. So I've been trying to use it to like generate realistic images, maybe background images of some of the reports I was doing. I use free images from Unsplash, and obviously after a while, you use the images, you see them popping up again. It's a bit repetitive. So I was trying to generate like maybe like black women at work or like people in a park. It's not very good for that kind of stuff, but it has its uses. I've seen another designer I know from just Twitter and Instagram. He started a thing with Midjourney where he writes these prompts and he uses it as backdrops. So like maybe like a human doing golf, and he's like designed a golf brand or a tennis brand or a hiking brand, and he puts just the logo on top of it, just like to present it in his portfolio. And I'm like, that's a real interesting way for graphic designers to use it for their portfolio use cases. When you don't have a specific picture of a golfer or people in a barbershop or whatever, you can use like something like Midjourney to generate that. So I think it does have its uses. I know Adobe's doing a lot to try and catch up with the AI stuff. I wouldn't necessarily shun it as a designer. I haven't shunned it. I just haven't had that many use cases for it. But I think it can be really fun. It can be really good. Again, things like it can close the gap between things like stock photography, illustration stuff, 3D stuff that you might not necessarily have the skills to do. And if you can write a prompt, and I think I said this on Twitter ages ago, I think what the generative AI will be for this generation of designers is what Photoshop was. Well, not for my generation. I wasn't there when they made Photoshop. I was just born in when they made Photoshop. Me and Photoshop were born the same year. For that era of designers, it will be the same thing of in the sense of like it's ushering another creative era where you're going to see people that weren't able to be creative before because maybe they didn't have the skill or the process or the access are now going to be able to get a skill and have the access. I wouldn't be a designer without the Adobe tools because I would have to go and like be an apprentice at a studio and learn how to like airbrush or how to use like Letraset and learn how to like literally physically letter things and whatever the hell they were doing before Photoshop, right?
Yeah.
I would have to do that. But me being a black boy from South London probably would not have access to getting into this industry. But me being able to steal Photoshop and have a cracked version of my computer allowed me access into this allegedly allowed me access into being a graphic designer. But if there was no Photoshop, there would be no me. And I think that's a lot of Black people specifically, right?
Yeah.
There's no Photoshop, no me. And I think if you are able to write a prompt the same way if you're able to use the Magic One tool, right? Or use the filters in Photoshop or use just the tool and be able to manipulate text and image, right? Turn it into a half tone or whatever. If you're able to do that, you're able to be a designer when before you couldn't. There was no way of you being a designer. And even till now, graphic design traditionally is an old white man industry. There's a reason why it's an old white man industry. And now there's loads of women, men from all different backgrounds, ethnic minorities, and communities. Even if you're white, you can still be from a community that no one is even know what the hell a graphic designer is, right? So it's not necessarily just race. It's socioeconomically, again, how do you find work and how do you afford the tools? How do you pay £56 a month? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
£56 a month it's not accessible. But if you can pay £10 a month for Midjourney or pay £6 a month for Firefly, you get it where you can use it with Express and you can learn how to do that, you can become an artist. I don't know how to paint, but that doesn't make me any less of an artist because I can make a poster in Illustrator or Photoshop or InDesign or whatever it is. Yeah. So the reason why I say it's going to usher in a new era of artists and people and designers is because it's a new tool, right? It's a new tool for people to be able to use. Just like this era of like surgeons are going to be able to do way more intricate heart surgeries because in the last 10 years, they've got more advanced tools that makes it easier for them to get into someone's heart. So I think you should embrace it or be left behind. Because I'm sure when they invented Photoshop, Illustrator, or InDesign, people were like, no, this is not graphic design. We can't use that. You got to use your hands. You got to do this. We're going to lose it. And if you say that and if you do that, you're just going to sound like the grumpy old guy. And eventually you're going to have to use it and you're going to be like, oh, I'm getting slower now. Like I shouldn't have just kept up. And so for me, it's a thing of like using AI is a thing of keeping up. And they will be bad and they will be good. Just like I'm sure when Photoshop came out, there were those are bad, but there were those are good. Right? Yeah. And you have to keep up with the industry. This is part of keeping up. New tools, right? Canva is a new tool. There's some things I don't use Canva. I use Adobe Express because I get it for free. I get it because I pay for it a month instead of just going to pay for Canva. Yeah. There's some things I don't need to open Photoshop for. Like I used to have to open Photoshop to cut out an image. Now I just put it on my phone and Adobe Express cuts it out in a second. I don't need to open InDesign to do my social media posts because I can do it on my phone. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, imagine if I'm like, I'll use InDesign. Why could you be using Adobe Express? And I get the exact same result. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, you have to move with the time. You have to keep up. Otherwise, you will be left behind and you'll be forced to keep up. There were so many people like, I don't do the internet thing. And I'd like, well, how do I post on the internet? Because it's the normal thing now. And if you don't keep up, you lose them.
A dinosaur.
You know?
Yeah. That's it. I really want to talk about this forever, but like, I know
everybody gotta go.
Gonna let people go, but definitely we are going to come back on if you're down for it. And,
for sure.
Maybe like just chat about something else or carry on the conversation. But like, it's just been really, really awesome having this conversation. I hope everyone else that's in the chat has really,
Hope I didn't just
enjoyed
yap
it.
endlessly.
I'm telling you, just put the camera on and just yap, honestly, because there's so much to cover. And of course, like, I gained a lot from it. I'm sure everyone else in the chat gained a lot from it as well. I hope you enjoyed
No,
it too.
yeah, of course. No, man. Listen, I'm a yapper. I'll talk to anybody about anything, man, and I'm happy to, give any advice or talk about my journey or
Yeah,
whatever. Like I'm
absolutely. We'll definitely make use of you.
yeah.
Like
Honestly,
you said,
anytime. Like I'm not,
yeah,
I'm not unreachable. I'm not bougie. I'll tell you how much I charge if you need to hear it. I'll tell you, whatever you need to hear.
you guys gonna be sending you. I'm gonna be sending you all my invoices.
Honestly, because it's like you need to show people, like, look,
Yeah, you do.
this is where you should and can get to. It's not. It's not. It's not foreign. It's not far. It shouldn't be a fantasy.
Yeah. That's it.
Okay, sorry. Just to go back to what I was saying, they've got something called the Content Authenticity Initiative. All right, I'm going to post it. I'm going to post it in the chat. Guys, check it out.
Content Authenticity Initiative.
So this is a thing that I think Adobe themselves have started. So I've gone to what is Adobe doing to ensure AI generated images are created responsibly, i.e. not using other people's work. I'm just going to read it very, very quickly. As part of Adobe's effort to design Firefly to be commercially safe, we're training our initial commercial Firefly model on licensed content. So content they paid for, such as Adobe stock and public domain content where copyright has expired. So that would be like public domain content where copyright has expired would be like something as old as Hercules. That's why anybody can write a story about Hercules or the Greek gods, and now Mickey Mouse. I don't know if you heard about
Winnie the Pooh as well.
Yeah. So these are in the public domain that anybody can make a story about Mickey Mouse, the original one, because the copyright has expired. Because I think copyright lasts for 100 years, something crazy like that. Yeah. Okay, cool. So additionally, as a founding collaborator of the Content Authenticity Initiative, Adobe is setting the industry standard for responsible generative AI. The CAI is a community of media and tech companies, NGOs, academics, and others working to promote adoption of an open industry standard for content authenticity and provenance. So again, it would be very easy for them to simply scrape every creative piece of work ever made, but I think they would be sued into the ground very easily and lose probably. So when I read that and then I was seeing all the outrage that was happening online, I knew that people just didn't know how their thing worked, and that terms and conditions probably will change and probably get explained better, but it's a term and conditions that any cloud company uses. So I think just generally anything you see online, do your research, do more research, do a bit more digging, and don't just take it for gospel, because some people get paid for outrage online. You know what I mean? They get more views, more shares, and there's more money in their pocket. So it behooves them to say, "Oh, this is ridiculous. Adobe's trying to steal your work." Think about it. Like when does Adobe? Why would Adobe try to steal your work? Like they don't need your work. They need you to use their tools. Do you know what I mean? I know obviously it's changed how they want to do generative AI, but it wouldn't make sense because every artist in the world would just flip and sue them. There'd be a class action lawsuit and it'd be worth billions. It wouldn't make sense. Like, you know what I mean? It wouldn't make sense. So don't, when you read stuff, let's keep reading. You know what I mean? Let's keep understanding, you know what I mean? And then no one's going to come online and dispel it, or it just gets buried in outrage and no designer's going to come on. But most of us are just keeping quiet. I'm like, I ain't not using Adobe just because. What am I supposed to do? Not use Adobe and not get paid and find out some other program probably just as good, but come on, man. I ain't doing that. I'm sorry, man. I'm black, man. I can't do what you guys are doing. I can't. You know? I've got real family to worry about other than like Adobe scraping my work life. Please, man.
No, it makes sense. Like, thanks for shedding light on that, because like a lot of people tend to read the headlines and
exactly
no scaremongering.
I read the headlines all the time, but
this the information is important, and knowing.
And I don't want to make it I don't want to make it seem like I'm just like sticking up for Adobe because my dad doesn't own the company, right? I don't have shares, nothing like that. But I'm just saying from like just my standpoint and just where what I've learned about it. But yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely think everybody should start trying to use AI. See what you can use, how you can use it, because it's becoming very normal. It's going to become again just as used. They've got it in Photoshop now as well. They've got it in Illustrator. I saw today that they have it in InDesign now. So if you don't learn how to use it, it's like not learning how to use.
Not learning how to drive.
Not learning how to drive. You're gonna have to learn. Make it. I mean, the public transport in this country is pretty good, but driving helps.
Try to live it where I live.
Oh snap!
You gotta drive. But yeah, like awesome. Like that's been really, really cool to shed light on. And I think we'll probably do another conversation about
for sure.
AI and creativity. But thanks so much for.
No, my pleasure.
How can people follow you? Because this is also going to be on YouTube and all that. So
okay.
How can people find you? And
you can find me anywhere on the internet at the BKH, THEBKH. That's my name everywhere. You can just search me on Google, the BKH, and all my socials will come up: Instagram, LinkedIn, all that kind of stuff.
That's amazing. Thanks so much for joining us, Brian. And,
my pleasure. Man.
For everyone else that's been watching, hope you enjoyed it, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you.
If you like this clip, make sure you like, hit the bell and subscribe so you see more videos like this. And if you're a Black graphic designer who wants to join a community where you can learn new skills and network with other people, hit the link in the description to join the Black Design Circle, and I'll see you there.